Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, I just want to take time out right now to talk about lessons that can be learned from this tragedy involving Steve Stevens. Because I think that there are some important lessons that can be learned from this whole situation. The first thing that people can learn is this: don't be a simp. And when I say simp, I'm basically talking about somebody who wraps their whole existence, centers their whole existence around one woman, to such a degree that they feel like they can't live without that woman. They feel that life can't continue if that woman doesn't want to be with them anymore or if that relationship doesn't work out. I think that that is just crazy. I don't think that people should center their lives like that. I think that that's weak. You know, of course, I believe that people should love, they should get into committed relationships and all that kind of stuff. I encourage that. But I don't encourage people centering their whole existence around one person. I don't encourage people to feel like their happiness, their state of well-being is all dependent on that one person. Because the fact of the matter is, relationships, unfortunately, come and go, and life goes on. So if a relationship doesn't work out, I think the first thing that a person needs to do is reflect upon the situation. They need to do some self-reflection and think about what did they do wrong to cause the relationship to end. Sometimes it's not your fault. You may not be the one to cause the relationship to end, but you can also think about what can you do differently so that you will meet a different type of person the next go around. And I think that after someone has reflected, they need to allow themselves time to heal. And after you've done that, I think that at that point, you may be ready for a new relationship. And the bottom line is this: there are plenty of other women in this world that people can date and eventually marry. The possibilities are infinite. There are so many women out here, so many different types of women and stuff like that. There are many opportunities to find the right person. So, this notion that you got to throw your life away because a woman doesn't want to be with you anymore or because a relationship failed, I just think that that's ridiculous, and I think that it's weak. A man should be strong. A man shouldn't be weak. And anytime you let anybody control your life like that, you're weak. You're weak as hell. So, that's the first lesson that can be learned from this whole tragedy. The second lesson is this. I just think that people need to be willing to go to counseling. If someone is feeling depressed or they have various issues that they're struggling with in life, they should seek out professional assistance. I think that too often what happens is we don't deal with these issues well. We brush aside these mental health issues, these depression issues, for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of taboo around people seeking out counseling. And for black men, it's viewed as a weakness for somebody to seek out professional help or counseling and stuff like that. We're often told to man up and all that kind of stuff and, just suppress our emotions and all that kind of stuff. And there's a place for that. I don't think a man should be running around wearing his emotions on his shirt or the sleeve, crying and carrying on and stuff like that. But I think that too often what happens is we don't seek the professional help that we need when we're depressed or you have, different issues in life. I think too often we're told to brush it off. Too often people are told to pray it away, and too often people are so wrapped up in their lives, they don't really have time to even be concerned about other people's problems and stuff like that. And that's going to bring me to the third lesson. that can be learned from this. It's like we really need to be attentive, pay attention to what's going on around us with our loved ones and our friends and colleagues. If we notice that they're in a depression state, in a state of depression, or they're going through things, they seem to be irritable or have other issues going on, we need to be willing to reach out to that person to see if they're okay. Talk to them, recommend that they go to counseling and stuff like that. Try to guide them and encourage them. And some of this stuff may not have helped this situation at all. It may not have solved anything here. But I think that that's something that we need to do. We need to look out for each other. And we need to make sure that our loved ones who are struggling with depression or other issues, that they get the help that they need, that they get the help that they deserve, so that you won't have situations like this. Because a lot of people struggle with a lot of different things. So that's, one lesson, another lesson that can be learned from this whole tragedy. Another lesson is this. I mean, this whole gambling thing, just how gambling can ruin people's lives. I think this is a cautionary tale about gambling, because there was a time when gambling, for the most part, was illegal, but now it's like everywhere. Here in Maryland, you have casinos. In my hometown of Detroit, Michigan, you have casinos. Like at one point, it was just casinos in Las Vegas, and now casinos are everywhere. And I just think that gambling is, a very bad habit. You know what I'm saying? People can lose everything gambling. So I think that that's one thing that people can learn, to avoid gambling and all that kind of stuff, because gambling is just as addictive as any narcotic out here. So that's one lesson that people can learn from this situation. And then another lesson is accountability, man. I mean, this is something I've stressed in all these videos. The sign, some wise man, a colleague, put together like a chart. And one of the things that he was saying on this chart is that strong people or powerful people, they take responsibility for their shortcomings. They acknowledge their errors, they take accountability, they own their problems, and they try to develop solutions to their problems. Whereas weak people, what they do is they blame other people for all their problems. They blame others and they don't take any kind of responsibility. And for that reason, they remain losers in life. So that's one very important lesson that can be learned here, because in this situation, this guy was blaming everybody for his problems. He blamed his mother, he blamed his girlfriend, he blamed his friends. He pointed the finger at everyone except for himself. And as I said before, that makes him a loser. He lost at life. And he took his own self out. He took his life. So that's something that we can learn. It's time to take responsibility, especially for the black man. It's like, and I've addressed this in another video, it's like you have this whole industry here on YouTube where these men, these weak-ass black men, blame black women for everything. You can't be a leader when you blame people for your problems. You can't be a leader when you blame your women for the problems that exist in your society. I mean, how are you going to profess to support patriarchy and all this and that when your first instinct is to blame your women instead of taking responsibility and taking control over your community? So, those are some lessons that people can learn from this whole tragic situation. And I just hope that society learns a lesson about firearms. I mean, the fact that all these mentally sick people, like whether they're psychologically sick or if they, just are not right mentally. Too often these people have access to guns. I mean, society needs to do something about this problem, and perhaps there's nothing that society could have done in this situation because there was no record of this guy having mental illness, at least so far. Nothing has been revealed yet. So, but it's something that society needs to think about. Like, why is it that these mentally ill and mentally disturbed and psychotic people have access to guns, man? It's like, how is that even possible? I mean, how does that happen? Why don't we do enough as a society to prevent that from happening? And then the last lesson that can be learned from this whole situation is this whole narcissism of our society that's created through this social media. I mean, it's like, the fact that this man recorded this tragedy on Facebook Live, you know, that speaks to like how narcissistic and self-centered society has become, where every moment has to be captured on social media so that people can get social approval, so that people can get attention, so that they can get likes, so that they can feel important. I mean, I just think that speaks to the sickness of our society, man. That monster, Steve Stevens, is really the reflection of this society in which we live. This society is looking in a mirror and they're seeing that ugly face of Steve Stevens. I mean, this is what this society has produced, where people are so wrapped up in their narcissism that they would kill a person live on Facebook. And, this is not the first time crimes have been committed on Facebook Live, recorded live on Facebook. I mean, it's like these people, they are allowing their ego to trump their reason. You know about that case in Chicago, where those teenagers and young adults kidnapped and tortured some white guy. I mean, that's another example of the sickness of social media. It's like with the good of social media comes a lot of evil consequences as well. So these is just some food, things to think about, food for thought. So tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.